Thank you very much. Good morning to all of you. A great morning it is. First, let me begin by thanking the superintendent, not just for what we're experiencing today, but for really outstanding leadership of the state police over these past 4.5 years that has increased the reputation and the standing of the state police and made this state a safer state, which is what it's all about. Superintendent Joseph D'Amico, let's give him a round of applause. To the Director of Training, Major Smith, we thank you for your efforts for turning out another great class of troopers. Let's give him a round of applause. To Reverend Ronald Grant, thank you very much, Reverend, for your words of inspiration. Thank you, Ronald Grant. And Trooper Chris Conti did not only a great job in the academy, but he can sing too. Chris Conti, thank you very much for your moving rendition. And to the 203rd class, you should be proud today because you did it. You made it. You showed the courage, you showed the stamina, you showed the grit, you made the sacrifice, and you accomplished the goal. You ran the race, and we applaud you today. Let's give them a round of applause. Now, that is not to say you did it alone. There are a lot of people in this room who believe you had some significant help. As Reverend Grant mentioned, there was a support structure behind almost each and every one of you. You had families that sacrificed. You had wives that stayed home and did double duty with children. You had husbands who stayed home and did double duty. You had mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters who pitched in. You had children who missed you when you were away and wanted to know where you were. But they did what they had to do to give you the support you needed to accomplish this goal, because they knew it was important to you, and they knew it was important to their family, and it was important to the state of New York. But they are part of this celebration today, and we applaud them. Give yourselves a round of applause. You will find as you go on that the New York State Police operates much the way a family does. It shares benefits and it shares burdens, and it feels one for another. And before you have even commenced your official duties, we have already lost a member of our family during the training that you went through, and that is Trooper Donald Friedenberg, or as he was referred to by his friends, DJ, who died during the second week of training. We believe that his spirit is with us today. We believe that we will carry his spirit forward and his memory forward, and you will do justice and honor to his memory. We have with us today Trooper Friedenberger's wife, Angela, and we would ask her to come up now so we can present her the flag of the state of New York as a token and a memento of DJ's service. Now, standing here before the graduates of the class of the 203rd training session, brings back an unfortunate memory. One of the first speeches I did when I was governor of the state, just became governor, and this presentation was one of the first speeches that I did. And it was an important day, it's an important event, obviously, and it was a big speech for me, one of my first speeches. My father was governor before me, 1982 to 1994, Governor Mario Cuomo. We lost him this year. But he took very seriously these events and the message that he communicated. So it was powerful to me, and I worked very hard on the speech, and I came and I was delivering this speech, and I had a little humor in the beginning, or what I thought was humor in the beginning, a little passion, a little strength, a little this. And I'm looking at the audience, and I get no reaction whatsoever. And I say, this is the worst speech I have ever given, literally. Not a muscle in their face moved. And I tried everything and nothing. After the speech, I walk off, and I said to the superintendent, I said, boy, that really bombed, that speech. I got no reaction whatsoever from the audience. He said, well, Governor, they're ordered to sit at attention and show no emotion whatsoever, whatever you do. They had left that little piece out of the briefing. So fool me once, but I really don't care if you smile or don't smile or applaud or don't applaud, because I understand it. And it's part of the training, and it is part of the discipline that goes with this. But today you join an institution that has an outstanding history that has been established before you. The story is even in the uniform you wear, the gray uniform. It was picked by the first state police superintendent, George Chandler, because he thought gray was a symbol of neutrality, that you came without a predisposition, without pre-opinion to a situation. The color purple in the tie and on the hat band are a reference to the Roman Praetorian Guard, who were responsible for safekeeping of society, and whether they were the elite guard in the Roman Empire. So you build on that proud history. But you also have an exciting future, because your role as troopers, I believe, over the next 20 years is going to be a different job and a different role than has ever been performed before, because the world is changing. And your duty and your role and your responsibilities will be changing with it. It's no longer going to be just enforcing the criminal law and the highway laws. Your role is going to be much broader and, frankly, much more challenging. You're emergency management officers now. You are in charge of weather-related disasters, which you'll be seeing more and more. There's a great debate about what's causing climate change that I don't engage in, but it is inarguable that the climate is changing. We're seeing weather patterns we never saw before. We're having hurricanes in places that never had a hurricane. This is not a hurricane state. We're seeing floods in parts of the state that never saw floods, 7 feet of snow in Buffalo. That's a lot of snow even for Buffalo. It's never seen 7 feet before. And the frequency is much higher. My father was governor for 12 years. In 12 years, he had 11 presidentially declared disasters, which are weather-related disasters that are so severe the president declares a disaster. 11 in 12 years. We've had 9 in 4 years. So the frequency of these changes is way, way up. We also have challenges that we didn't have before. We have diseases that we haven't had before. We just went through a Legionella outbreak in New York City. We had an Ebola outbreak coming to New York City, which was very, very frightening. We have the 9/11 site. We have terrorism that is evolving on us every day. We have cybersecurity threats that we didn't have before. High-profile visits like the Pope is coming to New York, which brings all sorts of issues to the forefront that we've never dealt with before. And this is the world that you are going to be inheriting. And these are the conditions that you need to protect society from. As the superintendent mentioned, just yesterday we announced the state police was going to start a sexual assault unit to police sexual assaults on college campuses. Why? Because we have a chronic outbreak of sexual assaults on college campuses. By some estimates, 1 out of every 5 women, girls, in college will be a victim of sexual assault. Up until now, we've left those cases to the campus security. But the motivation for the campus security was just to make the issue go away because it was bad publicity for the school. And we said, no, these are crimes, and we want to protect our students, and we want to protect our women. And the state police will now have a special unit just to handle those sexual assaults on college campuses. So a proud history, but an exciting and dynamic future that we are going to look to you to protect us from. Now, this will get confusing at times, no doubt, because this is a complicated and a changing world. And to be a police officer in this world is not easy. It is a world that is, in many ways, in a state of unrest, with conflicts, with political opinions, with an unease about the relationship between police and the community. So you're not taking an easy path, and you knew that when you first signed up for the job. But sometimes it can get confusing. Sometimes my job gets confusing. And I came up with a very simple device to help me in the troubled days. And I designed a little pin, and I wear the pin every day, and I've given it to every person who's come to work for the state of New York. And for me, the pin says it all. The pin has the Great Seal of the state of New York, which is not only beautiful, but also tells the story of the state, the essential story of the state, Lady Justice and Lady Liberty, on the 2 sides of the state. State motto, Excelsior, ever upwards, try better, we can do better, the state will lead the way to better. And on the bottom of the state seal, 1 sentence, I work for the people. I work for the people. Who's the boss? Who's in charge? The people of the state of New York. You are a public servant. You serve the people. I work for the people. And there can be no greater boss than the people of the state of New York as a collective. And 3 words on the top: performance, integrity, and pride. Performance. You are employed by the state of New York to perform, to handle those challenges that we outlined, to continue to learn, to continue to grow, to continue to develop your expertise, to continue to evolve as the challenges evolve. As the challenges become more sophisticated and more intelligent, we expect you to continue to grow, to perform, because keeping people safe is not just a question of intent or effort. It is a question of performance. Did you actually accomplish the job? And that's the first word, performance, especially as a government official, because sometimes people are skeptical about the performance of governmental officials. I probably get that a little bit more in my line of duty than yours, but it is still there. The second word is integrity. which is a very important concept for you to fully understand. You are now a New York State trooper. You are a police officer. You represent law and order in the state of New York. And your family will now be the family of the New York State trooper. You will be the house on the block where the trooper lives. And you will be the husband of the trooper and the wife of the trooper and the child of the trooper. And that brings with it a responsibility, because you do represent that. When you're on the job, when you're in the uniform, but 24 hours a day, you are a New York State trooper. And people will expect you to conduct yourself accordingly. And things that some other people can get away with in life, they're going to hold you to a higher standard. Now, some days you'll say, well, that's unfair. But it's the reality. And integrity in how you perform your job, integrity in how you live your life, is part of what you are agreeing to today. And the last word is pride. Pride. Because you should be proud. If you are working for the people and you are performing, and you're performing with integrity, and you're living a life of integrity, you should be proud. We are proud of you today. I hope when you look in the mirror, you are proud of yourself. You should be proud of each other. You should be proud of what you have accomplished. And you are joining the New York State Police, probably at their most proud point in modern political history. The New York State Police just performed an unbelievable act under tremendous pressure that was witnessed by the entire nation. 2 inmates escaped from Clinton Correctional Facility, Dannemora, and a manhunt unprecedented, 22 days. Thousands of New York State troopers deployed day after day, night after night, in some of the toughest geography in the state of New York. Marshes, swamps, forests. You can't walk more than 3 feet without bushes and getting cut, and scratches and insects. Day and night, night and day, day after day for 22 days, away from their family, away from their post, sleeping in dormitories and in small motel rooms, never complaining. That was their duty. Working with law enforcement literally from all around the country, with the FBI, state of Vermont, other troopers, a collegial unit unparalleled, with tremendous press scrutiny, watching every minute and every step. And by the way, with no idea where the 2 inmates were. Thousands of leads. Each one had to be followed up on as if that was the lead that was correct. And all divergent leads. They're down the block. They're in Louisiana. They're on the French Riviera. They're still inside the prison. And each one had to be taken seriously and had to be fully investigated. Who led that investigation? A man who I believe in many ways symbolizes the best of what the New York State Police are all about. A man who I had the pleasure to live those 22 days with, and I was impressed every day of those 22 days. And a man who, together with the thousands of troopers who participated, elevated the standing and the reputation of the New York State Police to be one of the elite forces in the United States, because at the end of the day, they got their man. The troop commander was Major Charles Guest, who's with us today, I would ask him to stand and for us to show him our appreciation. Major Guest. There was also a poetic, if not romantic, conclusion to that manhunt for the New York State Police. Because while it entailed thousands of troopers and all sorts of sophisticated equipment and all sorts of coordination, the way it ended was the essence of the history of the New York State Troopers. One trooper, one sergeant, on patrol in a vehicle alone with no backup, came across one of the inmates, believed he fit the discrimination. The sergeant got out of the vehicle, encountered the individual, confirmed the identity of the individual, and handled the situation alone. In a rural part of the state, backup was miles and miles away, in a field, just him and a man who he knew was a dangerous killer. And rather than get back in the vehicle and call for backup and wait, he knew that he was only 1.5 miles from the Canadian border, and if he didn't get him at that moment, he'd be gone. He'd be over the Canadian border, and we'd have an entirely different situation. And Sergeant J. Cook, one person alone, took down Mr. Sweat and returned him to justice. And that is and that, in many ways, is the story of the state police. Coordinated, working with other law enforcement units, working together with equipment, with intelligence, but also at the end of the day, it's up to you. At the end of the day, you are alone, and you are justice, and you are righteousness, and you must handle the situation yourself. It's the trooper who rode horseback and went from town to town with a sheepskin coat and a Stetson, and that was enough. One trooper alone. It was enough then, it's enough now, because you are selected from the many, because we believe you can be the best. We today pass you the baton of the history of the state police and the legacy of the state police, the legacy of DJ Friedenberg and the other 127 line of duty deaths in the 98-year history of the state police. We hand you that legacy to cherish and preserve, but also to advance and also to grow. It is your duty to carry that legacy forward and bring it to a new height, to serve your mission, to do it with professionalism, discipline, intelligence, and honor. We know you will. Be smart, be safe, be effective, and be proud. Be New York State Troopers. Thank you and congratulations.